Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Talk with CSG. Today, we're actually talking about a topic that's very close to my heart. It's all about MVNOs and how we can help MVNOs improve customer loyalty and customer experience using entitlements. And joining me for this call today, I have Casimir Schmidt from Nexphone, an MVNO in Switzerland, and I have Emir Abul Hussein, the CEO of NetLync. Can I just get you both to maybe do a better introduction than I have done on yourselves?
Yes, welcome as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. My name is Casimir. I'm working in the telco industry since, I don't know, many decades. I've also worked for 15 years for an MNO here in Switzerland, and since a couple of years, I'm in charge of the mobile business for Nexphone here in Switzerland.
Thank you.
Thank you, Haifa, for hosting. My name is Emir Abul Hossein. I'm CEO and founder for NetLync. I've been working in telco not as long as Casimir, a couple decades on my side, and actually founded an MVNO at one time and had that running successfully for many years. Now, passion is on device entitlements.
Perfect. Thank you both. So for the benefit of the audience, I'm Haifa Alashkar. I work in the CSG corporate strategy team, and I have the privilege of being able to work with customers like Nexphone and Strategic Link to discuss topics like this. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about MVNOs, and I want to talk both about the challenges that MVNOs have to deal with and equally some of the opportunities that entitlements presents. But the backdrop to this conversation is today's landscape. And, whether you're an MNO or an MVNO, right now revenues are tough. It is a very, very tough market. I think everyone would agree. And I guess MVNOs play a very, very critical role in the telecommunications industry. And the key thing I always think about with MVNOs is the two key principles that I think differentiate an MVNO from a lot of the MNOs on the market is the ability to deliver a better customer experience or a more targeted customer experience, but at the same time, deliver value. And so it's that careful balance between value and cost and price and delivering that great experience that I think underpins the success of MVNOs. I would like to maybe get your perspective around some of the challenges today, Emir, that you think MVNOs are dealing with before we cross over to you, Casimir, and just get your thoughts on it from, directly from your perspective, having, being in the seat of the MVNO.
I think some of the challenges MVNOs are facing is that there is, in some ways, a reduction of barrier of entry to MVNOs, but the problem is that the quality isn't necessarily there. So the MVNOs are not coming to market with full access with the best customer experience. I think in some cases, with my experience, but also working with a lot of MVNOs, that some of them do provide incredible innovation, and especially on the digital front, where they start off, but where they fall short is because of their size and because of their challenge to scale fairly quickly, they end up falling short in some of the areas around the device experience overall. And this means that getting the full functionality and features available on an iPhone or an Android device, RCS, which has been, very popular across RCS, the ability to now seamlessly send messages without relying on WhatsApp or any other third-party application, but between an Android user and an Apple user, again, something not easily available to MVNOs. Apple Watch is another example as well. And then lastly, eSIM, right? We know this has been a particular game changer, probably one of the reasons why more easily can launch, but without that full OEM experience and being able to activate and provision the device directly from the operating system, or easily transfer that as well. It is definitely a diminished experience for MVNOs, and this is something that that is definitely a challenge for them.
You raised a couple of very interesting points around, the network settings and the implications on device and user experience, and equally the role of eSIM in today's market. Now, we are hearing a lot that more and more devices are becoming eSIM only, and in fact, we understand that we're moving towards that later this year, where all devices will practically become eSIM only. So given that context of what you mentioned, Amir, I'm interested, Casimir, from your perspective, from an MVNO, are these challenges that you find that are happening constantly to MVNOs, the network settings, the eSIM implications? What do they mean to you as an MVNO?
I think a device configuration is a big pain, or was a big pain to a big extent, because to ensure that you get the right settings in with APN, or even that you can enable VoLTE. I mean, certain devices do not allow to do that, is really a pain, and that is something you suffer, and it's not your fault actually, or not really your fault, and your influence is very limited. So we are very happy if we get support or enablers on all sides actually to overcome or minimize that device setting stuff. And it hits you everywhere. It hits you on the domestic network. It hits you with 4G, with VoLTE, with 5G, with voice over Wi-Fi, and all that stuff.
Well, and this topic today is all about customer experience and customer loyalty. How do these things, like not being able to set the voice over LTE settings correctly, or having APN settings, change on you, or things like that, how do they translate directly into issues for customer experience and customer loyalty?
I mean, you have if as an MVNO here, let's say in our situation here in Switzerland, the benefit that people, if they are willing to join you, they also give you a bit credit in the sense of, okay, you're maybe new on the market, but from a certain point on, they expect similar, equal, or better services. And if you cannot deliver, for example, the APN problematic or the VoLTE problematic, you just lose them. It means it's at the end of the day, it's really it can become a killer criteria. Can you hold the customer, keep the customer, or gonna you lose the customer?
Yeah. Let me add on to that as well too, Haifa. I mean, one of the things that devices have been incredible with is if you look at even yesterday's announcement with WWDC with Apple, is that the user experience, the user interface is one of the most important things to whether it's an Apple user or to an Android user. And customers have now reached an expectation that the minute they turn on the device, whether they put in a SIM card or download an eSIM, they just expect everything to work smoothly. And there's a point where the customer expects almost an instant gratification. So it's there, it's working, it seems I don't have to think about it, and I can get right into my apps and enjoy the device as it's meant to be. Now, as an MVNO, if you fall short in that, it can be in some ways devastating, because all of a sudden you've now got that bad experience now reflects directly onto the brand. But furthermore, it actually now adds support costs on top of it. So now the customer is calling in, they're whether maybe they're on hold or not, they're waiting. Now they got to go through the process. They got to get everything configured, everything set up. Maybe it takes 30, maybe it takes 10 minutes, maybe it takes 15, maybe it takes 30. It doesn't matter. The perception is it didn't work out of the box. And that is a setback for MVNOs in particular. And then, if you're migrating to a new device, there is a very seamless component called eSIM Quick Transfer that makes it absolutely elegant. But if you don't have that, it's a whole entire process to get through to get that device up and running.
So I want to quickly thread that, to the last step. I guess, Casimir, if your support costs are going up and your experiences are hindered, then your ability to deliver value is also becoming hamstringed. Your costs have gone up, your ability to deliver kind of a better price and a good experience are both hamstring. So I guess it is kind of the most devastating impact that you could imagine.
Yes, I mean, if you think along those lines and extrapolate this maybe negative impact, it can bring you sort of in an existential crisis, or your business, if you cannot cope with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, luckily we're having this conversation today because I believe this conversation is really all about how we empower MVNOs using something called entitlements. Now, most MNOs would understand what entitlements are, but to some MVNOs, this may be a foreign concept. So, Emir, can you please tell us a little bit about what entitlement is and what it does and how it helps in this situation?
Something I'm very, like I said, very passionate about. So entitlements has been around for over a decade, and what it essentially is a protocol initially launched by Apple that ensures two really critical things: device security and quality of service behind it. And the device security is that its first and foremost job is to do device authentication. This is every time you turn on your iPhone, every time you go in and out of roaming, you lose network, a whole bunch of scenarios, it will check in with the entitlement server. And what it does is it basically acts as a triangulation between the carrier, between the user, and between the OEM themselves. And once that authentication is established, you've now got a nice, you can now have iMessage and FaceTime up and running. But with that as well too, is it'll also check with the network to say what features are available or what features need to be provisioned to this device that the network carrier can also support. So now it's ensuring there's a quality to make sure that the right services at the right that have been certified furthermore are now being provisioned to that device. So now it's ensuring the quality of service is being set up. VoLTE, voice over Wi-Fi are a couple of examples going forward. Then it does one further step is it says, okay, based on those things, what services now can I start activating that the carrier supports? So this includes functionality around eSIM. For some carriers, it's now the ability to add an Apple Watch. For others, it's cross RCS. So the list goes on and on and on and on. And this list has been growing of all these features with device entitlements. And what it also does a really great job with is that why some carriers really like it. And mind you, all tier one carriers have been using this service for over a decade. This is how they manage. This is the only way you're going to get a seamless out of the box experience where everything works perfectly. Is that they also like the fact that they don't have to redesign their network to build all these supported. Entitlements manages that in the background, and it does that consistently and persistently throughout the day to make sure that quality is there. And so this again just simply adds to the customer experience. And there's many features that must use entitlements in order for it to have them. So you can always tell very quickly which carriers are supporting them, which ones are not supporting them. And fortunately, in the last maybe 16, 17 months through NetLync and working particularly with Apple and also with Google as well too, is that we are able to extend entitlements to become available to almost every type of carrier, whether they're a carrier partner or not. So there's really almost no excuse not to have entitlements anymore. And we can talk a bit further about this later on.
Okay, so entitlement is obviously a game changer. It's what's helped MNOs deliver those seamless experiences. And Casimir, you're an MVNO, so you've had the opportunity to now deploy entitlements, so you know the before and the after kind of view of the world. You've gone ahead and deployed it. What was your experience like deploying it? How did you find once it was up and running, right? Was it as game-changing as we're mentioning here?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, so far is very good. I mean, we just freshly deployed, so we don't have a vast user experience in that respect using the entitlement servers. But nevertheless, what we have seen so far and what we can anticipate is really very good and very promising. Um, I mean, the eSIM transfer, for example, also things like that you can push roaming lists onto the device, or this baseline package itself is giving us an advantage we didn't have before. For that, we are enabled now to have VoLTE as a per default. Because so far users need to switch on VoLTE, and that's sometimes a bit the pain. And people migrating, for example, from an MNO to us, they always complain, oh, 5G is not enabled, VoLTE is not enabled, I need to dig out that in the menus, and that's all gone. So that's a very positive thing.
So I guess if I was an MVNO listening to this and I'm learning about entitlements, my question to you, Casimir, was how easy or how difficult was it to actually connect up an entitlement platform to your business and get up and running?
Yeah, first time I got in contact with NetLync, we had an initial call, and then I think you were talking about 4-8 weeks, something like that, implementation time with 2 or 3 engineers, and then we thought, oh shit, that's a lot of effort. But then we looked into it and we thought, okay, actually that looks pretty straightforward. And so the implementation on our side was pretty quickly done. So within 2 weeks, we have been up and running, performed all the tests. So that was very good. Also, thanks to support from NetLync side. So that worked out very well. And maybe it's also due to our the way we are set up with our core network. We have all the required interfaces, but that was pretty straightforward, I have to say.
Can I ask you, Casimir, there are different types of MVNOs, right? So are you a full MVNO with your own AAA server? Are you a light MVNO? What type of MVNO are you?
I probably can tell you a bit about our setup. Actually, we operate 2 mobile network codes here in Switzerland on 2 different networks, here also in Switzerland. Both of these MNCs are hosted on what we call a multi-tenant core. So we have one core with own HSS, so P gateways, SMSC, and then on top we have a BSS, or we have actually several BSS, which then interface with that core. And in the middle we have an OSS, which we to a big extent developed ourselves, which does the main part of the provisioning and not towards the core. So and from that OSS umbrella system, we actually also interface the NetLync system, and that was actually also helped us to really smoothen the implementation there. For us to run the whole thing is very easy, and also the second network code to get up and running was really then a very quick thing because we used the same interface.
Okay, so I guess one of the things I hear from a lot of MVNOs, and maybe Amir, you can help me understand how this works, is a lot of operators host MVNOs and MVNOs who are, working identifiers, workers to be able to segregate traffic for the different MVNOs and to be able to manage this. I understand that MNOs are able to, interface directly with Apple and provide their settings. What does an MVNO do who doesn't have a relationship with Apple?
They want that full experience that one of those tier ones or one of those carrier partners has. They actually sign up with our entitlement service. It's what they do essentially. Yeah. So we are in a very
fortunate. How do the identifiers get managed? Are they managed on the platform, or are they managed by something else?
So the identifiers are already in place that the carrier already has, or the MVNO already has, and then basically what we'll do is we will do 2 things to facilitate that. Number one is we'll direct you over to the GSMA NSX, network setting exchange, which is very important to get all your settings in there, your APNs and your GIT values and everything else that you need to get in place. The second piece of it is then you would start deploying entitlements as a service. Now, what NetLync has done actually, without exaggeration, did transform the entitlements landscape, right? We actually spent 3 years building this platform completely from scratch under the mandate and the partnership with the OEMs that they wanted to achieve 100% adoption of entitlements. So with that is that you had two elements working together to really transform that experience and level the playing field for the MVNOs. You have the GSMA network setting exchange, where now the device will, automatic network settings are automatically configured, and it works. It's a nice system that works incredibly well. And then for everything else, it's handled by entitlements, particularly entitlements as a service. And so what you'll do is when you sign up with under the entitlements as a service platform through CSG, for example, is that in the background, NetLync will start facilitating and start setting up everything for you to manage to get launched with the OEMs and making sure that your values are properly identified and the entitlement server is properly provisioning the services that you need. It's a step-by-step process. And as Kashmir said, it actually only took them a couple of weeks to get it up and running. Now, Kashmir, at the time, to your guys' credit, you guys set a record, right? And so we actually go out there and we tell the other operators, because we have a very long list of operators that are now deploying on your service. And so there's some of them are trying to challenge your record to deploy.
Good. We're looking forward to that.
So we'll see if that record gets broken. But 2 weeks was definitely very impressive. But that being said, there is processes that are really well established and set in place to identify all that. Now, for full MVNOs, it's really quite relatively straightforward, particularly if you're running your own HLR, you're running your own AAA, like Nexphone was doing. For light MVNOs, what you do is you basically go back and request this type of service from your host MNO, from whether the wholesale group or what they call the MVNO group, and you say, look, I'd like to have access to these entitlement services. It sounds like CSG has available through entitlements as a service through NetLync, and we'd like to get that set up. And we already have large MNOs that are embracing this model, so they can also make sure that the experience is going to be there. And I just want to add one more note, Haifa, which is really critical for MVNOs in general. A lot of MVNOs, they come in under the idea that they can operate in a niche market. They can change the whole device activation experience or or customer sign-up experience, and some of them do a really good job on that. And thirdly, some of them just compete on price, right? They strip away all the marketing, they go direct to consumer, and they try to focus on price. That does not get you the scale. That will get you some customers, but that does not get you the scale. The scale comes from a full package experience where the customer does not feel they are sacrificing anything in order to move over to the service. And if you're lacking entitlements in that full experience, you are making a sacrifice. And I think this is what Nexphone does incredibly well, is that they are competing on so many fronts, especially on the customer service side of it as well too. But now they can also deliver the experience on the back end of it, and that's all there for them.
So I guess I just want to quickly touch on the benefits. We've talked through the challenges. We've talked through the answer is entitlements. We've talked through how MVNOs who haven't had the opportunity in the past to be able to take entitlements because they haven't been Apple carrier partners, now they don't need to make that commitment in terms of signing up, becoming an Apple carrier partner, committing to volumes. They can now use this entitlement platform and get going. They can manage their identifiers through the GSMA network settings exchange. And I'm assuming, Kashmir, that's exactly what you guys did. The real question I have is, what was the benefit, right? Like, if you had to tell me one example of something that was before and after that radically changed, what would that be?
I mean, there's two sides in that respect. One is really you can significantly improve the user experience because the user can plug in the same card and the settings are there. You don't have to deliver him instruction or he has to read something. It's plug and play, and we match now more or less the user experience of an MNO or of our MNOs here. So that's one side, and the other side, the benefit is, of course, on internally directly on our customer care. We don't get or that often questions we had in the past with device settings. We still have them, but these are the devices which are not yet enabled for the entitlement server. There we can see clearly a difference. For the iOS devices, that's more or less gone. And that's a very, very nice thing to do.
Okay, so look, this platform, if you can sum it up in about 2 minutes, what would you say entitlement as a service makes it unique? I mean, this concept of being able to work with MVNOs, being able to empower them to use entitlements, is that available everywhere, or is it just here?
It's just with us. I mean, entitlements as a service is a model designed, invented, created, and developed by NetLync. It was a long process with significant time and effort and investment to make it happen, because there was a identified opportunity with the OEMs. I mean, very fortunately, I have a very long-standing working relationship with them, particularly Apple. That what they saw was the traditional model was a barrier towards getting that 100% adoption. So what happened is that something had to change dramatically, and the idea there was entitlements was in its current form back until we announced was deemed either too complicated or too expensive to deploy, and only available to limited few as well. So there were two elements that were behind it. Number one is complex licensing model, structure fees, and everything else behind it. Actually, three, more than I always forget about the third. The second one is the system integration. There was always this very heavy element of system integration and system integration fees that came with it that really would just simply blow the budgets out of the water, and carriers could not build an ROI around that going forward, particularly smaller ones. Anybody under 10 million would always, really complain, or 10 million subs would always say, look, this is very difficult or very expensive for me to deploy. And the third one, which is becoming even a bigger challenge under the traditional model, is the fact that more use cases are coming online through entitlements, and they're growing consistently. I mean, it only used to be when it first came out, it was like 1 or 2. Now it's up to almost well over 10, probably going to be heading into 15 over the next couple of years, even sooner than that. And so the idea that you've got to go in there and do a new use case and add a new feature behind it, traditionally is a completely brand new project, which even requires in some cases a new agreement. So what we had to do is we had to change all of that. And that means we had to basically go right back to a blank piece of paper and build it completely from the ground up, from the first line of code. And we knew two things. Entitlements did not have to be complicated. My experience and my background with entitlements is we did the first cloud-based or public cloud-based on AWS deployment entitlements. That only went so far. That solved hosting problems and where you set it up, but it did not solve anything around the integration issues. So when we had the opportunity to create NetLync, and this is what's unique about NetLync, we do entitlements and entitlements only. So it is very much a passion for us. That is a very unique thing in this industry, that we said, okay, how are we going to completely change the game? And we took inspiration from a lot of companies that were very successful in that they put the developer first overall. And we knew that a lot of these MNOs and MVNOs, both light and big, actually had the internal talent already in place if you could make it quite simple. I mean, Nexphone is a fantastic example of that. And so what we did is we said, okay, let's look at things like Twilio. Let's look at things like Atlassian. Let's look at Stripe, how easy it is to integrate their services and platforms, and can we bring that to entitlements? And that's exactly what we did. We made entitlements as a service, which did not exist before. Simply go into the platform, you register, you go to the CSG platform, you register, you get yourself set up, and it's a step-by-step process. I like to say it's almost paint by numbers. So it'll walk you through the entire process, and it's actually getting easier and easier because we're working with all these, dozens of carriers, and we're taking this feedback, and we're simplifying it even more. But it's almost a paint by numbers process. We walk them through all the steps. You get set up. You do the API integration. You do the initial testing. You switch to production. The team comes in and gives you full support to make sure that everything, and we certify you in the background, and then we tell you when you're going to launch, whether it's in the future it'll be iOS 19, 19.1, 2, 3, 4, whatever that feature is going to be going forward. And then once your customer updates their Apple device or updates their Android device eventually, then all of a sudden you've got now a full service experience. And if it's a new customer coming in with a brand new device, which means that it's an updated operating system, the minute they download that eSIM or the minute they install that SIM card, it just everything just works out of the box as it should out of the gate. Now, one more thing I'll warn is that eSIM quick transfer, as Haifa you referenced earlier, that there's going to be an eSIM only world eventually at some point. eSIM quick transfer is, if you don't have it, you're going to be sitting at a real big disadvantage in the future because it does two things. Again, instant gratification for the customer. Everything moves over, including the SIM card, and it works out instantly. And the other thing too is it's been proven so far to also support customer retention because the customer, when they are setting up that new device, they're not thinking, can I get a better deal somewhere else? Or maybe I should do a SIM swap, or maybe I should look at another offer. They just simply move over and carry on with their day, and they're ready to go.
Okay, well, I want to thank you both for your time. This has been very, very insightful. I do want to take the opportunity from a strategy perspective to kind of just summarize today's conversation. So we all clearly agree that the MVNOs play a very critical role in our market. Their two key principles is delivering a very targeted and better customer experience while managing value. Now, in a tough market like we're in today, managing value, managing margins is critical. And so when you're unable to manage your device settings, it not only impacts your customer's experience, it's also impacting your bottom line because your support costs are going up to be able to manage the workarounds. So entitlements plays a very key role in solving that. Entitlements, up until recently, has been for the entitled. And what I mean by that is those who could afford to be an Apple carrier partner and who could afford to make those commitments. But now it sounds like with entitlement as a service that we have the ability through universal entitlements, making it available to all, that all MVNOs, whether they're very large MVNOs or smaller MVNOs, whether they're full MVNOs or light MVNOs, now have the opportunity and the empowerment to manage their settings, their experiences. And in a world where eSIM is about to drive significant change, I guess the inability to keep up is a huge disadvantage. And I think entitlements, it sounds like, levels the playing field. And I have one last thing to say, and this is the CSG monetization hat on, which is to say that at the end of the day, one of the interesting things for me in the entitlement discussion and the empowerment discussion is the ability to hook up an entitlement server, not just to the network and the OSS, but to the BSS, and the ability to be able to monetize experiences, monetize new plans. But most importantly, I guess the one thing I would say to MNOs who host a lot of light MVNOs who might not be able to move on to this directly, there is an opportunity for you to empower your MVNOs, but equally an opportunity to monetize the entitlements capability as well, which creates a win-win for everyone. So with that in mind, thank you again, Casimir. Thank you again, Emir. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.
Thank you, Haifa.
Thank you very much as well.